Stay at home and relax. We've got Sunday lunch delivery covered.
Darren's Air Conditioning Services. Professional services at affordable prices. They have air conditioning units starting at $2,800 with free delivery, installation, and Wi-Fi ready. We supply Pioneer, Lennox, Comfy, and Infinity, all at unbeatable prices. Servicing of a 12,000 BTU at only $150. Don't forget to check them out on Google, Facebook, Instagram, and TikTok. So contact Darren's Air Conditioning Services at 749-8245. Darren's Air Conditioning Services. Professional services at affordable prices.
Unique Woodworking Trinidad Limited and Unique Lumber and Construction Guyana Incorporated are premium manufacturers and exporters of high quality bi-folding sliding and pocket door systems, fire-rated doors, windows, operable louver shutters, hardwood floors, staircases, architectural moldings, and toughened laminated glass. Unique Group of Companies also supply kiln-dried greenheart, mahogany, cedar, and teak for both residential and commercial projects, locally and regionally. Our logs are cut and shipped by Unique Lumber Guyana and dried in our computerized kiln at our factories facilities in Trinidad. Visit our showrooms to see the quality, which makes us unique.
Intel is Trinidad's most reliable and technically experienced ICT company, providers of quality structured cabling, Cat6 data fiber, and power cables. We also stock cabling infrastructure basket-type cable trays for server rooms and data centers. Intel also installs and maintains video security systems including cameras, alarms, and electronic entrance locks for businesses and residential properties. Call Intel 674-1406 or 783-9250.
We're on Facebook, Rumble, YouTube, TikTok, WhatsApp. We are the social media giants. This show and this show tonight, the ads you saw at the start of the show benefits the advertisers tremendously. This show tonight, especially this show with this particular guest tonight and the high expectations of what we're going to discuss tonight, is an advertiser's dream. This show is going to cross 100,000 views before the end of next week. So if you are somebody in business and could benefit from 100,000 people learning your business name and what you do, please contact Felicia Holder at 769-4590 and book your space. It'll never be oversubscribed with ads. We do our ads at the start and at the finish, or if there's an emergency during the show, you're here, we need to take a break, we'll run ads then. So you benefit from it, and the cost is very cost effective. Contact Felicia Holder. Satish is going to put her number in the ticker tape below, 769-4590. We have a lot of very important issues to discuss tonight, and to a lot of people, the two best people to talk about it is Gary Griffith and myself. I don't have to say the name Griffith. My guest tonight is a man like Madonna and Beyonce. You don't have to say his name. You don't have to say his whole name. When I say Gary, everybody knows Gary. In fact, all the other Garys have to use their last name now. He is ubiquitous. You know, when they say a man that don't need an introduction, Gary Griffith is one of those people. And he's my guest tonight, former Minister of National Security, former security advisor, former commissioner of police. He's a hockey player, a football player. He's a man of many skills and talents. And he's going to replace the two swords behind him, he said, with two tricanal. So he's going back to his roots. Welcome, my brother.
Always a pleasure. Good evening.
Say we are to say no, because we started off and this is not going to be a slow match. This is not a test.
It's a
Yeah,
T20.
limited
Correct.
over.
That's the rule.
So your partner jumped out himself and told the nation he misbehaved in public office. In fact, Senator David Nackett has written the DPP seeking to get clarity on that. What is your take on Keith Rowley admitting that he interfered with the process of the appointment of an independent commissioner of police?
Well, but what is interesting, good evening to everyone. What is interesting is that he spent a few months dodging, ducking, bobbing, weaving, refused to admit it was him, until it is that he felt that he has found some avenue as a get out of jail free card to ensure that he will not get in trouble for what he did. And that's why when it is after a few months, when I listened to his Minister of Communication on the Express this morning, his Minister of Communication told him, she was the one, oh, by the way, his Minister of Communication is now Rhea Tate, because she seems to be the person who promotes drama.
I thought it was Rhoda.
No, but yeah, that's a junior minister. Because Simon de Nobrega, you have a commissioner of a Minister of Communication, and for going on 2 years, this man has not said a word, has not made a comment. His only involvement in communication is when he reads Rhoda Barrett pages with that 50 people listen to, and he'll put LOL. That is his input in communication for Trinidad and Tobago as the Minister of Communication, which basically sums up this government.
The man join our salary for doing nothing.
Yeah, they have a Ministry of Digital Transformation. They don't even have a Facebook page. That is how great this government is. So going back now, Rhea Tate, she does all of the promotion and the marketing for Keith Rowley. Every time you see an article with Rhea Tate, it is going to be something very positive to try to promote Keith Rowley or something to destroy or distract or discredit any of his opponents. So as soon as we saw this from his Minister of Communication today, I realized what was going on. What he has tried, and what he had, based on his statement today, he has stated it was based on there was a Privy Council ruling that gives government some degree of authority to hand documents to any independent body. Keith Rowley, that is not going to work. Try again. That is a cop-out. And I'll tell you why. Because that ruling had to do with if there's any documents, reports that from a bona fide organization that government officials have, they can hand it over to an independent body for their information. But in this case, that did not happen. What we are seeing here is that, firstly, what is the information that you would have given to the PSC? Keith Rowley, this is not from law enforcement agencies. This is not a report and findings from the SSA or the Defense Force or the police service. Keith Rowley plucked two individuals who were retirees who had no training in forensic investigation for firearms. One was an individual who was a special branch officer, and his last 7 years in the police service was to wait at the airport at JFK to collect the suitcases of ministers when they arrived. That is who he used to do an investigation on firearms. The other was Stanley John, who probably used a musket the last time he held a firearm, and who had the audacity to state that we were militarizing society, not taking away the fact that there were more criminal elements who had illegal firearms, and he was concerned that legitimate law-abiding citizens were getting firearms. So this was not bona fide documents from a recognized law enforcement agency that the government handed over. These were people that they handpicked to form a committee, because that is the playbook of the PNM. What they usually do is to always handpick persons, form a committee, have these persons who report to them, who they pay, submit reports, and on most occasions, the reports will be exactly what they want, leak it to the Express, and then Dennis Ren and Rhoda Barrett or Rhea Tate will then say, look at what we have discovered. It is the oldest playbook that the PNM continue to use by self-appointing committee people. So that's the first thing. It had nothing, there's nothing of substance to equate with the Privy Council ruling. The second is that the PSC report was already completed, Keith Rowley, so try again. This is not a document that you handed over that will cause the PSC now to look and analyze and ascertain. The report was completed, signed, sealed, and delivered and submitted to the president already. So what are you sending any report for? How could that report be of any value when this was already done? The third point is that if the report was of any substance or merit, it meant that the PSC chairman, when she received it, she will need to do a lot of research to ascertain if there was any merit to that report that will justify trying to withdraw the merit list. She went to President House 10 o'clock. By midday, she rescinded it. What are you trying? She did speed reading. Yeah, Philip.
Just stick up in there because that's a very important point. Eh? And I want to expand on that point a little bit. I know to you because you're dealing with this every day. But that's the most important point here. Because what they've done is they've engineered a suspicion. That's what they've done. Using specialists to investigate and leak what those investigators say is the result of their investigation. Gary Griffith not charged with anything. No official law enforcement agency of any kind is investigating Gary Griffith. But they can use this. So you could appoint your friend, your golfing buddy, your partner who used to run gills with when you was young, and I'm still trying to get the image of Stanley John with a musket out of my mind. But you could appoint anybody, anybody at all, and tell them, this is the result we want. This is the report we want. If you're going after, let's say you're creating an investigation into 4 divers that dead. You put 5 of your partners in a room and say, hey, just say we didn't do nothing wrong. And the flip side of that is, if they want to go at somebody, this is what Anne-Marie Doolal, your friend, Anne-Marie, calls the PNM's ability to bring the noise. Because that's what they're trying to do. But it's not sticking. And Trinidadians need to realize that Stanley John's opinion is not an official thing. This is not an official, this has not led to, this is not an official inquiry. All of these hand-picked PNM people that have been used to create whatever confusion was used to create in the media, that cannot be sufficient grounds for him to interfere with the independence of the Police Service Commission. And that should not have been sufficient grounds for Bliss to rubbish all the due diligence that they did.
That's right, and that is just the point, because this is the PNM playbook. Whether it is to deal with the shooting of the child by the Coast Guard, whether it is the national blackout, whether it is the Paria situation, whether it is FULs, whether it is the DSS matter, he continues to handpick people who he will know, because even like the DSS matter, this man found 3 dinosaur police officers from foreign, imposed them on the Trinidad and Tobago Police Service and said they would be involved in the investigation, because the man did not understand his role and function as a prime minister, that you cannot interfere and direct police operations. So this is what he will always do. Even with the national blackout, he appointed a 3-member committee. One happens to be a special branch officer who has no qualification per se in dealing with natural or man-made disasters, dealing with how a communication platform, how an operational system works between different arms of the protective services. And guess who this individual is? His personal security head, who secures him on a daily basis, who happens to be the same individual that Acting Commissioner Jacob asked to lead the team to ascertain if any of these matters even warrant an investigation. So this is the PNM playbook. So he selects this individual, as I said, the bag carrier, for 7 years at JFK to investigate. Stanley John could not even use a computer or a laptop. He had to get someone to come and type these documents for him in all of the investigations.
Gary, it's email gate. That's email gate again. That you go in the parliament and you say, of all the public officials I could have given this damning allegation to, I didn't go to the police, I didn't go to the judiciary, I didn't go to the DPP, I didn't tell Denise Wren that people coming to kill you. He never said that. He gave her a heads up. He went and gave it to the president. Yep. The public official with the least authority in the country. And then 6 months later, you're taken back from the president. And during the bright light of day, when you could have called the Integrity Commission and speak to the secretary and get an appointment to go to see, you didn't do that. You walk down the road in Blueberry Hill and knock on Ken Gordon gate, when it's just you and Ken Gordon chatting and telling them how emergency this is. This is PNM stunt and panic people nonsense again. But you don't realize, and I'm asking you this, outside of Rhodabout and she's 6 friends, you don't realize that nobody in the country takes them on anymore.
Yeah, and that's why the country is not buying it. So going on, you get the report, and then within an hour you resend it. What did Blissy Prasad? She did speed reading or something that she would have looked at that and immediately no. This was obviously someone directed her that you went to President House, you delivered it, and then they say, Blissy Prasad, go and get catabol, go back and take it back from the president. And so this has nothing to do with any report. This was a directive given. And the final point of, this is a big one. Several weeks after this merit list was rescinded, the other members of the PSC never saw the Barrington report. So how could the Barrington report be used and be claimed that it was the reason why the merit list was rescinded? It was not, because the PSC members still did not see it weeks after Blissy Prasad went to President House to rescind it.
So she acted in her capacity alone on behalf of the whole Police Service Commission, quoting a document that the rest of them didn't see?
And that is why it is that when it is that you have all of these matters for several months, Jacob, DCP, Acting Commissioner of Police Jacob, has refused to investigate this, because we are seeing a previous PSC chairman who has withdrawn a merit list without authorization, a president that decided to not adhere to the law by not forwarding the merit list. We have a prime minister that has admitted that he went in there and interfered by trying to persuade Blissy Prasad in some way. We then have the previous PSC chairman trying to suspend a sitting commissioner of police illegally because she tried to suspend me without the approval of the other 3 PSC members. And then when they told her, why are you doing that? She said, I was interfering with an investigation. Stanley John sends the report to show that this is not true, which means she misled the PSC, and that is sedition by trying to suspend a sitting commissioner of police. And then when the 3 PSC members told her, what was that?
By trick.
Yeah, and then when the 3 PSC members said, you need to reappoint Gary Griffith immediately because you have nothing of any substance, she said she's not doing it. These are all grounds for misbehavior in office, sedition, and then you also have ministers in the National Security Council who leaked these 2 so-called reports to their Denizrens and to their reitates, and by leaking reports of possible criminal activity, that is known as tipping off under the Proceeds of Crime Act, which means that those ministers who leaked those reports to Reatate or Denizren have also broken the law. All of these are blatant situations. So this is not like Emailgate where someone typed and they're so dumb they didn't realize there's no such thing as Gmail.com and they typed the wrong names and all of that. This is the fact to show that crimes took place. And for 7 months, the police have refused. So because of that, I have also written to the DPP. I have sent correspondence to the director of the PCA and to the chairman of the PSC to have these matters thoroughly investigated, because it seems that there's a major plan for a cover-up. And Dr. Keith Rowley's feeble attempt to try to say, well, the Privy Council gave us authorization to hand over. As I said, the report has nothing to do with the reason why the merit list was rescinded. This was based on somebody giving a directive. And all it takes, Phillip, all it takes Trinidad and Tobago is for the police to pull in Blissy Prasad and the 3 previous PSC members and ask them what happened. Blissy Prasad, why did you rescind the merit list? Did somebody give you an order or a directive or influence you to do it? If she says yes, that individual who did this would have broken the law and should be charged.
I want to tell you something. In our justice system, there is something called an order of mandamus. You know what that is?
Yeah,
an order. So why can't we get attorneys to serve on the Police Service Commission? For those of you who don't know, an order of mandamus is a judicial writ issued as a command to an inferior court or ordering a person to perform a public or statutory duty. Why can't we command the Commissioner of Police, the Acting Commissioner of Police, to do his job?
I don't think we need to reach that far as yet. By me writing and Senator Naked, right, sending this to the DPP will now contact the Commissioner of Police to find out what is going wrong. Why for 7 months, something of national interest, national importance, headlines with blatant accusations of criminal activity by so many people, you have refused to lift your finger, and the person you appointed to ascertain if the matter even warrants an investigation is the person who is the direct security bodyguard for Keith Rowley, who is the same person that Keith Rowley appointed in the committee to see what went wrong in the national blackout.
But I bring it back to this. McDonald Jacob is an interloper here. He does not belong in the post that he's in. He's drawing your salary. Let's be honest.
And again,
let's be honest. If you go back to this, the moment Keith Rowley interfered with the Police Service Commission, the moment the president and Bliss, whoever went on there, They broke the law. They interrupted a process that was already, the train was already on the tracks. They didn't have the authority to do that.
Yeah.
Yes
and
or
it was
no?
completed. This was completed. She signed it. It was given to President's office. It was signed. So you can't get catchable in this. You can't go and sign it and then after somebody say, oh, by the way, let's take a report, and she would then read the report and say, oh, look at this, let me pull it back. That is not going to be accepted by anyone in this country, Keith Rowley. So to give the impression that I just gave her a report and I walked away, there's no way she could have read that report in 1 hour and then made a decision to state that she's going to withdraw the merit list, especially when the 3 other PSC members, weeks after she withdrew that merit list, they did not even see that Barrington report. So that is a cop-out to try to use that Privy Council ruling. If anyone directed, influenced, intimidated Bliss Prasad to withdraw that merit list as a government official, that person should be charged for misbehavior in office.
There are so many people in public office. If just the allegation, look at what happened with our sitting Chief Justice and almost the entire Law Association. Why didn't the Prime Minister pull down the Chief Justice? Why didn't he do what he was supposed to do? There was an act he was supposed to trigger to begin the tribunal that investigates the Chief Justice. When you have almost the entirety of the law fraternity meeting and expressing no confidence, when they have all sorts and manners of allegation that have more substance than these 2 reports that Keith Rowley had his people write word for word, type how he said it. How come he didn't go to the Chief Justice? How come all of these people that sit in the government that have allegations against them, why, if that is sufficient for him to go and break the law and interrupt a legally binding process, why he not doing that in his own government?
Well, it definitely, I mean, if you look at the standard of the individual, what caused the fall of Keith Rowley and myself was just that. Like, there are many people, Phillip Alexander, that would do anything to keep their posts. Regardless of what, they will sit down and take the abuse, take the dictatorship. What Keith Rowley is doing is what you call democratic dictatorship. Because of our flawed constitution that was done deliberately by Eric Williams in 1976, they have gone out of their way to ensure that whenever you're in government, I will handpick the Speaker of the House, the President of the Senate, the Commissioner of Police, the Chief of Defense Staff, all state board members, and I will have full control to do on whatever I want and whatever I please. We need to have a government that is prepared to get in government and to diminish the powers of a government.
Indeed.
The two political parties would not do that because they when they're in opposition, they feel the hurt of it. But then when they get in government, the power becomes so much that they do not want to relinquish it. And that is the problem here we are seeing now, because when you have a prime minister making statements to me, like for example, he makes go to the Ministry of Finance to submit a report about questionable financial practices in the Trinidad and Tobago Police Service. But Colin Imbert and this government reduced $300 million of the budget for the Trinidad and Tobago Police Service in a year where, because of COVID, because of the state of emergency, it meant that our expenses were almost doubled because of dealing with vehicles, rental, fuel, maintenance, equipment, meals, and you reduced it. And it gave the impression to many police officers that the government was trying to sabotage me and at the end result affect the police service. But then you have such a shortage. For 5 months every fiscal year, you do not give me a cent to try to maintain 7,000 police officers, 125 stations, 2,000 vehicles. And then you, however, slip $40 million into my account and then direct me to say that this money is to be used to hire foreign attorneys to arrest political opponents. That is what I had to endure. I had to endure a situation with AV drilling when we did our investigation and we were close to it, but we needed to get an engineer to substantiate exactly what our findings were for us to then take decisive action, and they refused to give me a cent to hire that engineer. And so when all of these things come about, with a prime minister trying to influence me to suspend certain police officers, senior officers, try to remove civilian staff members, he continued to interfere in the runnings of the police service. So what he wanted was a puppet. What he wanted was somebody that he could call and say, I want to get this political man opponent arrested. I want to ensure that you put your resources on that. I was not a puppet. I didn't sing for my supper under the UNC government. I was not going to do it under the PNM government. And therein lies the problem. Keith Rowley wanted somebody who would be a yes man to agree to everything he says. And right now, Patrick Manning is laughing in his grave because all he's saying is, I told you also. I told you all that this man is, when he's full of hate, animosity, and he doesn't have his way, he becomes totally out of control. That is what he's doing now. He's talking about a disappointment in Gary Griffith. Keith Rowley, the whole of Tobago was disappointed in you. That's why they ran you like a dog and you lost 14-1. Look at your own disappointment.
They miss out too.
Yeah. So Keith Rowley, look at, when you speak about disappointment, look at yourself. He has the audacity, Trinidad and Tobago, to speak about my personality. Keith Rowley, I mean, if Keith Rowley tries to hold a baby, the baby will cry. Keith Rowley brings no degree of trust that people could say this man is genuine. He is very aggressive. He attacks persons. He blamed women for saying about the men that they have. He has the audacity to try to speak about my personality. But Keith Rowley, that was the problem. If you're a prime minister and you really want to measure the competence and the performance of a commissioner of police, instead of being disappointed and losing confidence in me, what you would have done is, one, notice that public trust and confidence in the police service moved from 15% when I started to 55% when I left. I dare them to do a poll now. It's probably back to 15%. 89% of the country wanted me to return as commissioner of police or did not have a concern. It was the highest reduction in crime in 15 years, 35% in every violent crime. We were going at a ratio of 340 murders per annum when I left. Now it is close to 600 murders per annum. The assessments that I had of every one of the 77 annually by the PSC was good or very good or excellent. He disregarded all of that. He disregarded the stats, the crime rate, what the public wanted, ignored all of that because of his own personal belief that Gary hurt my feelings and Gary's not listening to what I say. Gary's not being a puppet. This shows a person who does not care about what the people wanted. He doesn't care about what was better for the country. It was a selfish agenda in his approach as to how he dealt with this situation. And that is not the type of person we want as leader of a country.
Yeah, but Gary, I want to say to you, we can't continue to drag our foot on this. You tell me earlier we can't use our order mandamus, and you say it's not yet time for that. But a lot of time is passing, and things become normalized in Trinidad. My friend Avanel Hector Joseph say we end up normalizing things. So we normalize McDonald Jacob as the commissioner of police when he's an interloper in the job. He was not even in the running on the merit list to be able to carry on in the position or to be nominated for commissioner. So you're saying to me, it is your independence. It is your independence, which is what the job calls for, that Rowley really had a problem with. Because Rowley is lying. We're having a problem with Gary's audio. We're having a problem with Gary's audio. Still not getting Gary. Getting you know, yeah. Getting you know.
And when we go back to when it is he lost confidence in me, this is a man who had the audacity to state and to try to allude to the fact that the police should arrest persons in their home. That was the baseline situation. The man did not even know his own law, because when I was communicating with him, he said, so what? So anybody could be in a house and have 100 people? I said, duh, yes, they can. Because he did not understand the difference with public health regulations and a regulation that could allow the police to go into private property to arrest persons. He did not know because he had 3 attorneys or several in cabinet that did not brief him. And if I did not do stand-up, police officers would have gone to Phillip Alexander's home for Father's Day or Mother's Day or whatever if you had more than 10 people, and they would have arrested you. I was not going at any way to ensure that the constitutional rights of citizens would be breached because of a prime minister trying to put pressure on a commissioner of police to do the wrong thing. And that was his problem. He wanted to operate in such a dictatorial manner. He felt that he will have Gary Griffith to do his bidding. I was never going to be a puppet for any politician, and I will continue to operate in a way and manner to what is right for the country.
Trinidad wants to understand how theft at this level could take place. Trinidad needs to hear us say that there are steps that can be taken, action that will be taken. The job will be done. It will reverse this. Those who are responsible will be brought to justice. You need to give them some assurances. You need to tell them that my legal team or these positions of public authority are looking into this, because we need investigations into all of these matters. Trinidad cannot continue to have situations where, and I want to go back to the 4 people who died in that pipe, where we can't yet seem to understand that you have witnesses. This is already a law enforcement matter. We reach commission of inquiry. We should have had international law enforcement and people who engaged in best practices in the industry investigate this thing. We reach commission of inquiry now. Just to stall and hide and pretend that the government didn't fail in its responsibility. You have to tell Trinidad and Tobago, because I'm coming back to deal with that, but you have to tell Trinidad and Tobago in this issue of Commissioner of Police and the appointment that it's not over, that action is being taken and that they will hear more. You need to tell them that because they need to know.
Well, you see, this is what the PNM banks on. 7-day wonder of our country. So whether they are the shooting of the killing of the child by the Coast Guard, a few days will pass. Let's deal with something else. National blackout, a few days will pass. We'll deal with something else. Pariah situation, a few days will pass. We'll worry about something else. The Grenadians speaking about abuse of authority by the Coast Guard, a few days will pass. And that is what they do. They just keep hoping that these things will just go away. We cannot let this go away. This here is what we are seeing is the biggest concern of persons in high public office possibly being involved in breaking the law. And what is sad is that the Law Association of Trinidad and Tobago throat has choked. She has refused to say a word. This is the biggest situation that we have seen of public officials involved in a massive perceived conspiracy in trying to do something outside of the law. A president refusing to adhere to the law by forwarding the merit list. That is what has been law. That is all she's supposed to do. We have a PSC chairman rescinding a list. We have a prime minister basically stating that he was involved in influencing. And the Law Association has not said a word.
Should he be investigated?
Well, the situation...
Should the Prime Minister be investigated for misbehavior in public office?
No, you see, to investigate a matter, you can't it's not it's not an individual. You have to investigate the crime. And by doing that, you need to contact Blissy Prasad. Suppose Blissy Prasad says something totally different. But why Jacob has been afraid to interview Blissy Prasad? If Blissy Prasad opens her mouth, because it's a straightforward thing, Blissy Prasad, why did you withdraw the merit list? She can't say it's because of the of that report, because the report was by two persons with no law enforcement position or authority or training or experience. It cannot be that it's because of that report, because you dropped the merit list and within an hour you returned to collect it. You didn't do speed reading. It cannot be because of the merit list, because the other members of that report, because the other members of the PSC never saw it. So with all of this, Blissy Prasad will be left with no other choice but to state that the reason she rescinded the merit list is because somebody told her, spoke to her.
She was told.
And
she was instructed. She was instructed to remove it.
And when that happens, that is when we can start speaking about possible arrest of someone.
So tell me something now, because I want to ask you this question. Who is supposed to interview Bliss? The police service. You've made a report?
Yeah, it was written where it is Blissy Prasad should have been questioned a very long time ago. Why did you fail? Why did you try to suspend a sitting commissioner of police? Why did you give false information to the PSC to say that he was interfering with an investigation? Why did you refuse to reappoint him when the 3 PSC members told you to do so? All of these things is misbehavior in office, if not sedition. We are speaking about a sitting commissioner of police being suspended and refusal to have him reappointed by one individual. Those are grounds for the police to investigate. They have refused. And then you have a merit list that was rescinded based on a government official speaking to someone in the PSC. And as I said, that red herring that Keith Rowley is using about the Privy Council, that has nothing to do with this situation. That is, if it is you have a document, you say, hey, body, Lake Asphalt or whoever here, take a look at that, read that. That is not what happened here. This was a meeting that took place and within an hour, this was pulled back. You cannot read a report by 2 persons with no training, no qualification in forensic weapon investigation and use that as an avenue to withdraw merit list that took months to prepare, and you just saw a document signed by someone, and these were individuals that were handpicked by the government to do an investigation, bring it back to the government, who will then leak it and leak specific parts, because up to now the public have not seen these reports. So this is something that was a clandestine plan to try to discredit myself or whoever and use that as a cheap excuse to try to withdraw a merit list. It cannot hold that. Those are grounds for serious police.
But this is also important because the sitting acting deputy commissioner is beholden to these people for his job. So if he starts to investigate the people who gave him his job, he is acting in an illegal capacity himself.
Well, of course, Philip, and that is the point. This is the individual who fired 19 workers who are on contract. All of them were getting less money than the people who they replaced that when Stephen Williams was there. But the Ministry of Finance decides to mislead the country to say that there was a massive increase in wild spending. I was able to bring back at no time was I able to spend more than what received. And we will send back funds even though you put $300 million less. So McDonald Jacob decides to fire 19 contracted workers. But when it is that we have this report from the Ministry of Finance to state that there was some financial questionable wrongdoing, there were 25 other members of finance, civilian staff in the police service, and not one of them have been fired, not one of them have been suspended, not one of them have been questioned. So because for those things that have been paid, there's a chief financial officer and the accountant and the controller, and all of them have to go through a thorough process of checks and balances, tender process, before it gets up to be for my final signature, but not one of those persons. So it means that obviously somebody is speaking to McDonald Jacob, telling them who to fire, who not to fire. And obviously if it reaches that point, this is going to affect public trust and confidence in the police service, because if there's a perception that government officials can direct the police service as to who to investigate, who to arrest, and what investigations not to touch, that is going to erode public trust and confidence.
But it stopped being a democracy, it stopped being a republic, it stopped being a nation ruled by law. I want to say something to you, though. I want you to argue this point with me. All of this is obviously a political problem that requires a political solution. Gary, it is at the very top. This is all you talking about is poison fruit from a poison tree. You cannot, what does it say? You can't get a silk purse from a sow's ear. You cannot, what are you going to do with this? You're talking about pulling down. Here now, you're talking about if an investigation is done, it will taint the office of president, prime minister. This is, but this requires commissioner of police. Every single one of those offices have been tainted by this action of Keith Rowley. This insane, I keep going back to the word insane. Some of the decisions this man makes are insane. And I am saying to you, Trinidad needs a political solution, a cleaning of the house. We can't continue. If you continue to fight this, I mean, I think about the stress, because I have my fights too that I fight. And I think about the stress it must take to you to keep track of all these plays, to keep track of all the media people that you have to be on good terms with, to make sure they carry a story so that the public gets to hear in a country where it is so easy to pay for and silence people's voices. Surely.
And it doesn't change. And when it is, as I said, when you're going to catch up on the mustard, it is the same situation. And many times, you know, they say the emperor has no clothes. Keith Rowley and even Kamala Prasad-Bissessar, I've seen it in when I was in cabinet under the UNC. They will say things, and every single thing they say or do, everybody bangs the table, because no one wants to have the strength to say, look, I think you are wrong. And I definitely, as a leader, I do not want yes people around me. But when you are a weak leader, what you want is to make sure you have yes people. So I will walk around naked and people say, well done, you're looking good. That is not what we want. There are many persons in cabinet, many persons in the PNM. They are disgusted by the actions of Keith Rowley. Even with this situation, crime was going down. The country was comfortable. The criminals were being pegged back. There was the highest reduction in crime. Crime moved to number 4 in the priority list in this country. The health, the economy, education took priority in concerns. Now it has gone back to number 1. All of this because no one in cabinet has the strength to tell Keith Rowley, what madness are you doing? The one thing we're getting right is trying to reduce crime. The public is feeling safe. It is no longer a major concern. And because of your personal banker over Gary Griffith, you're concerned that he has 2 times more support than you. You're concerned that he might become too popular. Because let me tell you something, Trinidad and Tobago. If Keith Rowley did not want me, that is his right. He's the prime minister. But all he had to do was to let it go through the president's house, let the president do her job, and not have her, instead of her not adhering to the law, it comes to parliament and he rejects me. He did not want to do that, because by rejecting me, with all of the data that I showed, crime going down, public support, public trust and confidence migrate, it would have shown he would not have been able to justify it. But further, he would not have been able to discredit me. He did not want me just to leave. He wanted to use this massive conspiracy with the Barrington report and the Stanley John report. And guess what? In a few weeks, there's going to be another report. This is the PNM playbook. So every 3 months, they are going to do a report. Now, this report involves 3 retired police officers in their 70s. And for decades, whilst they were police officers, there was a widespread allegation and rumors of massive corruption in the firearm department. So these individuals were not able to do a thing to stop corruption when they were there. But 20 years later, after they retire, you bring them back, handpick them as just like Stanley John, just like Barrington, just like everything else, the people in the committee for the dealing with the national blackout and so forth. You continue to handpick people, call it a committee, get the report, leak it to Rhea Tate or Rhoda Barrett or Dennis Wren, and then rub your hands and say, aha, I catch you. That the country is not buying it.
You saw what they tried to do by staging a fake video and releasing it through Rhoda Barrett to pretend that was somehow a video of the actual pipe that the divers were in. I mean, the lengths these people would go.
Yeah, and again, this is what we have reached to. Again, I go back to the Minister of Communication. We had a nationwide blackout. Not a word from the government. Stuart Young, in a very foolish manner, showing his ignorance in national security, decides to say that we left TNTech to try to run and communicate with the public. A $75 million US system that was used to prepare the country for any natural or man-made disaster. You have a Minister of Communication that says nothing. He does nothing. Until his only involvement in communicating is typing LOL to any comment that Rhoda Barrett might make. Because it seems that he worships Rhoda Barrett's page. So he's one of the 6 people that monitor Rhoda Barrett's page. But he has never said a word, and that is the problem we have. There's no communication. Their communication is to try to find these clandestine, under the table, nasty, despicable things to try to destroy and discredit people. Let me say something. If you and the PNM, I have nothing against the PNM or the UNC. They are 2 very powerful parties and great parties. It is the leadership of both that have caused the problem in this country. Because you cannot say that I want to serve my country. I love my country. I am a minister or prime minister in my country, but I will continue to make comments to show that I hate half of the country. Because arguably, it is divided between the PNM and the UNC at this time until there's a third option.
But that could never bear good fruit. If you have to get into government at the expense of a large portion of the country. But somebody messaged me here to say, Gary keep talking about ketchup and mustard. He ain't mentioned pepper yet. And that's a very important condiment. I just said. Anyway, continue, brother.
Yeah, so again, going back to the importance of this whole situation, it has showed and revealed the typical PNM playbook. What happened is that the pressure of Paria, Keith Rowley decided to say, let's see, what could I do to try to distract the country this morning? And then he said, Rhea, my Minister of Communication, listen, can you do a playback of the same report that you sent 6 weeks ago and the same report? But then this time, all I will add is that I submitted the list. This was the same report that Rhea Tate did 6 weeks ago. So this was a deliberate attempt of a feeble attempt to distract the country from the Paria situation. What he has done, in fact, is just to intensify the frustration, the anger, the hurt, the disgust that the public will have. The public is disappointed in you, Keith Rowley. We are disappointed. I think the country they've passed the stage of hate. There's no need to hate. There's no need to be bitter. They are just disappointed because, like when you have a child or somebody, you expect better. We expected better from him, but all he has done is...
Brother, I wish I could go back to 2007 and unvote. The biggest shame in my life is that in 2007, I voted for Rowley. I was one of those people who was conned and fooled when he stood up in the parliament and gave us the whole talk about Mr. I went to the Prime Minister in August 2003 and told him about massive bid rigging taking place in Unicott. But it's only when I realized after, this man went to the Prime Minister to complain about corruption in the PNM in 2003. But he eat cabinet food and drink cabinet wine till 2009. He fight an election in 2007 for a government that he said that he knew was corrupt. It is after the fact I realized this man is a double-tongued deceiver.
Well, let me give you an example of that, Phillip. And this is what I saw. He's doing this big, massive concern about firearms, and with all of this concern with firearms, he's concerned that people are getting firearms. One individual in Tobago got a firearm dealer's license. I gave out 6 firearm dealer's licenses in my 3 years. There were about 50 others before me, so I was very limited in giving it. But guess what? It was a very, very, very senior government official from Tobago who calls the commissioner, please, commissioner, I have a partner from Tobago. See if you can fix him up with a firearm dealer's license, please. There's a very, very senior government official from Tobago that he continued to harass me to organize approvals for explosives for his partner in Tobago. And the list goes on. But you see, that's the hypocrisy. The same individual who was whispering in his ears against Gary Griffith was the first person in this country who got the 5.56 weapon and did not pay it, and did not pay the firearm dealer for over a year. And he got 2, in fact. So it shows the hypocrisy when you're speaking about firearms, because the PNM has a way that if you continue to lie and say the same thing over and over, you hope that the people will buy into it. They're not buying into it. In fact, with Gary Griffith with the firearms, I issued 5,000 firearms. Over half were for previous and present members of the protective services who needed it because of our backward law that if you come off duty as a police officer, a prison officer, you have to turn in your weapon. Not one of those weapons, or that 5,000, were lost, stolen, used for a crime, or used to commit a murder. So what was the issue? What was happening before me is that 500 firearms will be issued per annum out of 50,000 applications. When you have supply and demand, that is where corruption takes place. When I opened it and said, if it is you have the eligible requirement, you would get one. And that because of me doing that, it meant that police officers who were involved in the trade of blackmailing and saying you can't get it signed because I will block it, because I cleared it up. I stopped massive multi-million-dollar criminal enterprise in the police service, and people had an issue for it. But let us not look at the point. Gary Griffith, what I did was to ensure that the law-abiding citizens have a chance. And if and when I am back in government, I could assure the country it will be in total contrast to Fitzgerald Hines. If you are a legitimate law-abiding citizen and you have all that is required to acquire a firearm, you would get a firearm, because if it is that the state cannot protect you, you must have the fundamental right to protect yourself.
And that's the point, huh? And that's the point. And if I could find this here quickly, I just want to give an underscoring. This guy, they say this is the best quote ever. If violent crime is to be curbed, it is only the intended victim who can do it. The felon does not fear the police, and he fears neither judge nor jury. Therefore, what he must be taught to fear is his victim.
Yep. Well,
all them fellas who want to go and play the kidnapping girls on the taxi stand, how much of them will stop if 2 or 3 of them girls pull out something named Glock from in their little purse and put it in your mouth? No, but that's serious. We was talking about that. Before you left the position, we were talking about getting a fast track system so that women would be able to defend themselves. Your wife, I tell people, it is your wife that was, before the candlelight movement picked up the issue of the pepper spray, it was your wife that brought it into the public space and legalizing pepper spray and making it accessible.
Yeah, well, you see, again, this is a backward government because they fear change. If you fear change, you will never get anything done. For years, Nicole Dyer Griffith and then even myself as Commissioner of Police continue to state, give women pepper spray, give them a fighting chance. And they refuse because of the backward prehistoric thinking of Keith Rowley and his legal advisors. Well, you know, if we issue pepper spray, a criminal might take it. I would prefer a criminal has pepper spray because every one of them have a firearm now. Keith Rowley, get with the program.
Clarence Rambarat had said that pepper spray is even more dangerous than a firearm. Somebody responded on his thread and said, listen, give me a firearm and you stand up with a pepper spray. You spray me and let me shoot you. Let me see who come out worse.
Yeah. He thinks that we're trying to season curry duck or something. The man, and when you have a minister making a comment so stupid, he doesn't understand the difference. Pepper spray is not lethal. It cannot kill, but it could prevent you from. It can cause thousands of women around the world have been saved by having pepper spray. And I pushed heavily to try to assist women, where it was forming the gender-based violence unit, the sexual offences unit, putting the police app for an emergency, revamping the 999 system, putting online reporting so women can make reports without reprisal, the demand for pepper spray. Over 600 women, Philip, got firearms through myself. I think probably before me, it would have been probably 100 over the last decade. And that because I knew the importance, and I said women should apply for firearms. Keith Rowley, but you know, a lot of his ministers and his big boys, he wanted to go online with the big boys. All of them applied for their firearms, got their firearms. It's okay for them to get it. But for the small businessman, the individual who wants to see about his farm, the person who wants to hunt, the person who's involved in sport, the person who wants to make sure that he can secure himself, his assets, and his family, that was a problem for Fitzgerald Hines and Keith Rowley. If we continue with a government like this, the criminals will continue to take control.
682-2110. We're taking WhatsApp message questions for Gary. We're not opening the lines because I wouldn't be able to deal with the amount of calls. We don't have that much time left. But if you want to send a WhatsApp message, keep it brief, keep it straightforward and to the point. 682-2110. As I say that, because people are sending me messages. Somebody said it's time to march. You have marching shoes. Keith Rowley marched for his whole term as opposition leader. Why we can't be marching to your marching shoes? It's time. Trinidadians want to look up and see hope, Gary. That's what they're looking for, you know. The country looking for hope.
To get hope, you need to have persons that have leadership ability. Yesterday, for example, I was coming out of Carnage. 3 hours of traffic coming in and out of Carnage because of one pothole to be repaired. And this is this man's constituency. And this pothole has been there for several months. I am surprised you didn't deal with it and fix it as yet. Because thousands of cars were blocked and had people inconvenienced for hours because of one pothole. And this is Keith Rowley's constituency. There's no pride in being a member of parliament looking after your constituency. What we need is a government that when you're a seat, your priority is your constituents and not being a minister.
There's a young lady by the name of Lee Schaefer. It seems that Lee is preoccupied with potholes. That's what's upset her. And she has been taking, I swear, she's been taking videos because she's from the Martin West. So she's been peppering me with the potholes because it's getting vexed and people who's been messaging her. And she did one day, she drove up and down La Hoquette Main Road, Glencoe, where on the corner is the office of the Member of Parliament for Diego Martin West. And she drove up and down that road, filming all of the ways that the road is an absolute mess. That is contempt for the people. When you are the Member of Parliament and you don't care. Yeah, this system, as you mentioned earlier, constitutionally, Gary, we need a way to fire non-performing members of parliament. If you are my member of parliament and you are not delivering, I am supposed to be able to trigger a recall mechanism and fire you. I am not supposed to wait 5 years of incompetence.
But see, again, it's Animal Farm, because when the UNC got in government, that was the promise, 2-term for recall and all of these fancy things. But when you get in, you don't want it. And that is where we have the problem that government this year is democracy by dictatorship. But again, you have a prime minister who does not even know his role and function. Because if you look at one of the statements he made in today's newspaper, he said that I was bypassing the security minister. I have been the right hand to 3 prime ministers. And that was Patrick Manning, when I was military attaché, Basdio Pandey, and Kamala Persad-Bissessar as national security advisor. The commissioner of police has direct interaction with those prime ministers constantly because they knew their job and this man did not. When I was Minister of National Security, Kamala Persad-Bissessar would have met Stephen Williams. She would have been seeing Stephen Williams 3 times more than me, because a commissioner of police must have direct interaction, because there are many things outside of national security that the commissioner is involved in, whether it is the Ministry of Transport with traffic, whether it is the Ministry of Health with COVID situations, whether it is the Ministry of Education with schools and with school security. But this man, because he is lazy, because I met Keith Rowley 4 times when I was Commissioner of Police, and all 4 times I met him in Aruba, because he never wants to go and work in the office of the Prime Minister. Comes down in the Diplomatic Center in Aruba. And then he wants to speak about prime ministers with 5-day weekend. Well, this is Prime Minister 5-day weekend reloaded. So he meets me in his room and then has the audacity to say that I am supposed to report only to the Minister of National Security. It shows how clueless he is. He doesn't understand his role and function. Because delegation is good, but delegation is also an avenue for persons who are lazy and do not want to do work to just pass it on to other people. And he did not understand the role of a prime minister interacting constantly with a commissioner of police to reduce crime.
If this is a question out of left field, if the prime minister were to offer you the position of commissioner of police now, would you take it?
No, I wouldn't be able to. I mean, the man has actually made an open statement to say that he's disappointed, he has lost confidence, I was playing the fool. So what he has done is he has put a hatchet job to try to discredit me. So right now, Phillip Alexander, I am no longer interested. Because of him being so busy and me not getting the seat of Commissioner of Police, it is Keith Rowley's seat I'm looking for now.
Somebody say run the show longer. You have extra time or you have other meetings to go to?
No, I'm fine tonight.
Huh?
I'm good. I'm fine.
So we can go on a little longer? They're asking.
Yeah, sure. Yeah.
So Philip Franco is saying the system, the way it is set up, is they are not our representatives, they represent their party. So if we're talking politics, if you've said that you're no longer interested really in that position, then obviously we need to start discussing the political solutions to these political problems. Yeah?
Yeah, definitely. I have been a national security advisor. I was the Minister of National Security with you being there right there we had an A team. It was the highest reduction in crime at that time. I've now become the Commissioner of Police. So I'm fully aware of all that is required. And as the Commissioner of Police, it was the highest reduction in every violent crime. And as soon as I left, it went up. I know what can be done. I know we can do this. We can crack it back because every year, the game plan I had was to reduce murders by 50 to 20%, which meant that we would have been going back to less than 200. The last time we had that would have been like about 2003, 2004. We were getting there. We moved from 540 to 390. We were going to 340 until I left. Then we would have gone to 300, and you continue to gradually decrease it. We know how to use the systems. The National Operations Center is a critical arm to prepare and to support the country in any natural or man-made disaster. It will monitor traffic, dealing with the simple, all the everyday situations to major events such as Carnival, or major events, fetes, and so forth. And even the situation in Paria. And had that National Operations Center been properly used, you will not have the situation with the Ministry of Energy, Paria, Coast Guard, everyone spinning around like headless chickens, not understanding what to do. The National Operations Center was built for that. I went to Ecuador, Brazil, United Kingdom. I looked at the system they used after 9/11, what they used in Times Square for the ball to drop. That Operations Center is the engine room that will ensure the country can be prepared to deal with any situation. The national blackout, it was never used. You have a Minister of Communication that doesn't even know that that is the main communication platform that should be used for any natural or man-made disaster. And all of these things, Philip, it goes with the fact that we have a government that is incompetent. They do not understand national security. I challenge any of them, anytime, to bring anybody to debate with me in national security, because I want to go back to this OPV joke that PNM fanatics continue to speak about. The OPV could never be an avenue to reduce illegal drugs and weapons entering the country. The OPV is a vessel that is used to secure your exclusive economic zone. That's from 12 to 200 miles out, not 5 miles of water between the borders of the South American mainland and Trinidad and Tobago. 95% of the illegal weapons enter the country through the legitimate ports of entry. The US confirmed that with me. And I set up the Border Protection Unit that this government deceived the country about because they claimed that they were going to set it up since 2015. 7 years later, they have refused. The Border Protection Unit would have ensured, similar to what happens in Miami, if a dynamite comes out of a container, we will know. And that will, once we prevent the illegal weapons from coming in, it means those that we have here, we can start to extract. But the police season 800 weapons every year. In one container could bring 8,000 weapons in one night. So what the police would have extracted in 10 years would have been lost by one night of a container entering. We have containers that disappear. Several containers disappear every year from the port. Suppose that container has 8,000 firearms. And that is the importance of having a government to understand border protection, not having clueless persons continue to talk about an OPV.
Somebody asked, does Gary have legal standing to demand a transcript of the meeting between Rowley and the president and Bliss now that he's admitted it? Can your lawyers request, because you are an interested party to what they discussed?
But here is smart thing. They feel like bright with foolishness, because if it is you make the request through the Freedom of Information, what will be stated is that, well, no, these matters are under investigation. But you cannot do an investigation and have findings without speaking to the individual. So the Barrington and Stanley John report, they put their own personal view based on allegations, rumors, and hearsay. And then when you put it under natural justice, you are supposed to speak to the individual. Gary, this has been brought to our attention. They refuse to do that. So under judicial review, those two reports will be rubbished when it goes for judicial review, because you can't put findings of someone to possibly discredit that person without speaking to them first to say this has been brought to my attention. But Stanley John, which is Jurassic Park self, decided to listen to 3 police officers who may very well be the police officers who were involved in the corruption and the blackmail, that were upset that I mashed up the thing. And they whisper to him, this is what is going on. And he types a report just like Barrington. It is rumored, it is alleged. Because let me tell you, remember Stanley John, this man stated that this was a massive, well-oiled criminal industry. 7 months later, not one person has been arrested. You would have expected, with a massive, well-oiled criminal industry, about 500 police officers would be arrested by now. But we have over 100 police officers who have been suspended or arrested in the last year for all sort of matters other than FULs. But Stanley John puts a front page, well-oiled, massive criminal industry. But for 6 months, 7 months now, not one person has been arrested.
And you know what I don't understand, boy, Gary? You know what I don't understand? People, you have your entire year, your entire life, your career, and to think that your legacy could be so easily, people could be so willing to put their legacy up for sale. I don't understand that. I want to say to Trinidad and Tobago, if you are sending me WhatsApp, some of these WhatsApps, I literally cannot read it on the air. And you know that. You know when you ask me these things about the judiciary and the business and you're calling names, I can't read this. And that's one of the reasons why we didn't open phone lines. Because I want to ask you about everybody. And you know Trinidad and the suspicions on everybody. And people might have factual information and see the neighbor beating the wife, but it is not a matter of evidence, and so we can't have those conversations. So I am apologizing.
One thing I could say though, based on the 2 reports, what should happen, and again, Mr. Jacobs refused to do so. If Barrington submits a report of possible criminal activity and Stanley John did the same, don't be weak, Barrington and Stanley John. Do the right thing. You are supposed to go into a police station, submit the report to the police and say, these are my findings and I am willing to testify that this is the case. And if what you say is true, let the police
test it through the system. Test it through the system, correct.
But if what you say is false, then you should be charged for wasting police time, for making a false statement, and it will allow the persons you accuse to sue you for every cent you have. Don't go and hide behind a report that Keith Rowley tell you, write a report, slip it to me, and I will just give it and leak it there to Dennis Wren. Don't operate like that. Be a man. Go to the police station and submit it. And that's where Jacob himself, based on these reports, he should have called in these 2 individuals and say, I would like you to write a report stating that you are aware that ABC, XYZ committed a crime and broke the law. And if it is they cannot find the evidence to show that, they should be charged for wasting police time. And then the people who they accuse could then take legal action on them.
Before this show started, Gary said, because we were trying to get David Nackett on the show as well, and Gary said it was going to be a Saints old boys. I have a bunch of them messaging me. I was trying to get Gregory Sloan Seal, who was running with the victim and witness. He was part of that protection unit. We have a network, a strong network of old St. Mary's boys, and that's the joke Gary was making. And I want to call this fella name, but he know I can't because he is national security. He is in an arm of national security. I can't call his name, but he's a good partner. Anyway, he asked me to ask you, if not commissioner, what position you're interested in?
Well, I mean, I've been there, done that. I've been national security advisor. I've been a military army captain, commissioner of police, minister of national security. What next for Gary Griffith is basically what the country would want from me. We've been doing many polls, but I can't say that Gary Griffith is not going away. So for the criminal elements, for the PNM till are dead who are hoping that Gary Griffith was leaving, hard luck. Gary Griffith is a boomerang. I'll be back.
And no, but so I also have to tell you this, right? I saying this because I talk straight. Again, plenty messages that saying, hopefully we can see Phillip and Gary in the parliament together. Now, I don't know if they mean on the same side, opposite and quarreling. I don't know what they're trying to suggest. I just saying that I think people looking for hope and to see new, capable and credible faces who could bring some kind of substance to the debate, what we have going on right now, Gary. I mean, nobody enjoys what passes for the exchange in the parliament right now. Nothing.
Yeah, it goes back. You have a Minister of National Security that spends all his time attacking half of the country. How could you say you are here to serve a country when you spend most of your time attacking everyone in half of the country? Me getting back into politics, which seems to be the obvious route, I give you assurance that I have no intention to be spending all of my time attacking, discrediting, bad talking the political opponents. That's the PNM. The PNM, their game plan has always been, look, we know we're not good, we know we're incompetent, so our job, which we are very good at, is to destroy people's character, destroy their credibility, bad talk them, try to get them
Remember a
arrested.
fellow named Garnet Mungle Singh, a lawyer from Hobson's years ago. Garnet had a big name in the legal service, in the legal circles, and he was being pipped as a political aspirant. And then one day in the bomb newspaper, a picture leak of Garnet Mungle Singh in a green jockey shorts. I will never forget that and destroy the man's whole career. And that's what the PNM does.
Yeah, and that's what they go for, because they realize, look, their game plan is, hey, we're not good, we're incompetent, but they're thief. We're not good, but they are, look at what they did. We can't be running a country who is more corrupt than the other or who is more incompetent than the other, and they spend more time. If we listen to the Monday Night Forum going on right now, I mean, yes, I have worked with the UNC, but they spend more time attacking the PNM. My duty is to ensure that we find options, viable options. What we intend to do, there's a third constituency out there, Phillip, and the Trinidad and Tobago, that expands constantly. In 1981, it got 91,000 votes under the ONR. 10 years later, in 1991, under the NAR, it reached 127,000. Moving on to 2007, the Congress of the People, it moved to 147,000. 15 years later, it means that anyone who's from 33 to 17 to 18 years old would not have the option of a third choice. So apart from those 150,000 new voters, and whereas in 2007, you had two very good political leaders in Patrick Manning and Basdio Pandey. So there was a strong base of support for both sides. At this time, there isn't for either side. So it means that the base has been cut tremendously. So whereas you're thinking of 147,000, it's easily 250,000 plus. If we do this thing right this time around, the biggest issue in dealing with a third constituency will be egos. Everybody feels that I could work with this one, but not that one. I have been told that I have the charisma and the style to make sure I can mesh people together, circle the wagons. That we have to do, because most of the time the third constituency will have the best minds available. Because what you usually have, when you look at that PNM batting lineup, I mean, they look like the West Indies cricket team, the present one, and not the one in the 80s. It's just persons that you would not put to sell a dynamite out there because they don't have the capability. You listen to Fitzgerald Hines, the man is as clueless as he comes. You, as anyone could come with. You look at his comment, he said, the concern about legal firearms is that sometimes you see people murdered, but then you don't have the suspect. So suppose it's a legal firearm. The man is so clueless, he doesn't understand that every legal firearm issued, ballistic testing is done. So if there's a dead body, we can pinpoint that body to a legal firearm. The man does not know. But in his old prehistoric mind is that law-abiding citizens must not get firearms because firearms would be an issue because firearms kill people. He used OLEP. OLEP came and said, we're doing a massive report and survey dealing with persons with legal firearms because firearms is the main aspect of what kills people. 100% of all murders committed by firearms in the last 3 years were by illegal firearms. Oh God, Fitzgerald, you can't be that clueless.
But and as you're talking firearms, I had to slip this in because somebody messaged me on behalf of security companies who are having difficulty with the supplemental section shut down. They do and they're having difficulties with FUEC and they can't get contracts because they can't provide armed guards for the jobs because they can't.
Yeah, correct. All that stopped for the 3 years I was there. Not a security company could complain that firearm, they will not get any FUCs. But let me show you the danger there. what is going to happen is that persons will have a jewelry store, will have something with high cash, and now they will want an armed security officer. The security companies cannot provide it, so now they will put an unarmed person with a baton, and that is where that person's life can now be put at risk. Well done, the PNM. Keep putting the lives of Trinidad and Tobago at risk.
And another thing, police officers who were pro-Gary in the service are complaining about rampant victimization. Have you heard that?
Yeah, constantly. It is all over, which is sad. The good thing is the vast majority, when the UK British High Commission, they did a poll, and 93% of the second division officers supported me because they saw my style, they saw leadership by example, they saw me being on the ground with them, supporting them, looking at their needs, their concerns, improving their training. And that is where the public trust and confidence built. And they started feeling good working with the public. The public felt good when they saw them. So there's a tremendous support I have with the second division officers. With the first division, it was more like 50-50. But persons who still had some degree of allegiance to myself, I have been told throughout the country that certain persons, because they wanted to go back to the old school. As soon as I left Phillip, most of the things that I did and I put in place to measure performance, make police officers accountable, it ended. I cut the overtime bill of corruption by $140 million in my first year. That was because we had hundreds of police officers stating that they were working 24 hours a day, 30 days a month, getting $60,000. How could you work 24 hours a day, 30 days a month? But senior officers were signing off on it. And so that was everybody was getting a little thing on the side. Also, we're dealing with corruption for overtime, the corruption of firearms, the corruption with police using vehicles to escort persons. When I put a stop to this, I affected big business. When I left, it has all started, it has returned. Police officers are now, they're not monitoring the vehicles anymore. The corporation command center has virtually been shut down. So we'll watch a vehicle, say, why are you parked in that house for the last 2 hours? You should be on patrol. Why are you driving over the speed limit in Rising Road at 4 p.m. on a weekday when we're not sending you to a distress call? It means you're using a siren to beat the traffic. We will be able to measure how fast you took from a 999 call. All of these things have collapsed. And because of that, the country would have seen now a virtual a shortage of the number of police presence out on the street. Under my watch, the good thing, I will be criticized by people saying that they were seeing too many police vehicles, hearing too many sirens, seeing too many police lights. Now you're not getting that complaint anymore.
The whole country. Okay, I had to ask you about the vehicle graveyards because I did some videos in the last couple of weeks showing hundreds of millions of dollars of vehicles, fire, police, TNTech, bus, ship, all kind of thing. And people just want to know, why aren't they put up for sale? But something else. So you could stick a pin and you can answer that from the police perspective. But people saying they're fed up on the PNM, UNC is not an option. What are we doing? And they keep asking me again that over and over. I basically out there, they need to know what you're doing because, I mean, if it's not your time to announce, it's not your time to announce, say that. But you can't tease them.
There's definitely going to be an avenue and an option. The country they're dying for change. They want an option. And this is not to discredit or to attack the PNM or the UNC. These are two very good parties that have done a lot for this country. The problem we have now is the leadership. And what the country needs is proper leadership. They need positive change. They need to know that persons are really going to go out of their way to serve the country. And again, going back to the situation, Phillip, if and when that I will be in a party that gets in government in the next election, the focus of the members of parliament who win their seats will be to see about your constituency. Keith Rowley, ask him when last he ever walked the Martin West. He probably doesn't even know about that pothole with a big black barrel.
The man says his house is in Mason Hall. He don't know Diego Martin West. The people of Diego Martin West has put this man in and raised his family for 31 years. I telling you this. The man don't know Diego Martin West. It's I organized. When you all was in government, I organized the bypass by 4 roads that people used to spend 2 hours in traffic. It's Jack Warner. I tell people all the time. It's your wife, I now remember. Call me on the phone and ask me this article you write here about the bypass at 4 roads. This can work? I said, of course it can work. She said, I'm bringing you in. She organized a meeting with Roger Israel and Roger Ganesh and Jack. And in 2 tours, it was expedited.
Yep. And that's the point. But we don't, as soon as you become a minister, you spend 90% of your time in that ministry because that's where the perks would be. And you forget about the people who voted for you to give you the opportunity to be a minister. Your focus must be on your constituency. And if that, because that is what people want. People, a member of parliament is supposed to be a glorified, powerful counselor. Deal with what is there first and then deal with your ministry after. I would love for us to reach a point where you have 41 members of parliament that is all they are for. Members of parliament to serve the constituency.
We
And
all
then you have
agree.
ministers in the upper house.
Separate the legislature from the executive. We agree. Hire CEOs, hire functional manager of the Ministry of Health, hire functional manager of the infrastructure, the Ministry of Works, and have them answer to those 41 MPs. That is
And
how it should work.
and what happens again is that just before election, for the year before the election, the opposition spends all their time trying to destroy the government. The government spends all of the money of the taxpayers to try to fix roads and trying to make sure they stay in power. And then whoever wins, what then happens is everybody starts to rush now. Oh my gosh, all right, you become the Minister of Energy, pick 5 fellas and make a team to see the policy and the direction of the country in energy or sport or national security. We must not do that for the next year or two because I personally, with this government, I cannot see this government last until 2025. So we need to make sure that you have a government that is prepared so that we can say, look, we have policies, we have plans, we have programs, and we know exactly what is required so that we can hit the ground running from the first time we get back, we get in office.
Talking about the next saints, man. My brother, Dr. Paul Elias Alexander, making waves all over the world. Imagine him as a Minister of Health. He wouldn't be a crying jackass. He will actually be addressing the issues affecting the nation. This man stopping to cry on every corner. They can rent him out for funerals.
It's a crying game.
Atto Bolan, poor fella, he stopped. Atto used to message me. He stopped. But the situation with sport, and I mean, I know sport is something dear to your heart too. The situation with sport in this country, that's a crying shame. If Terrence wants something to cry for that.
Well, let me go with sport. I mean, and because I can link sport with the vehicles you speak about. When I became commissioner of police, the St. James Barrack was a graveyard, 500 unserviceable vehicles. I realized sport is a critical, and that's where both governments, when you look at almost everyone in the 41 members of parliament, some of them have never kicked a lime in their life. Well, in fact, the Minister of Sport admitted she never played sport in her life. I mean, when you, no,
She run and jump.
yeah, I think if I can recall offhand, the persons who have played sport at a national level or been involved in sport at a national level, I could from my hand, David Naked, Gary Hunt, myself, just a few of us, because you don't have persons involved nationally with sport to understand the importance of sport. But as a commissioner of police, I fully understood that sport should be a core curricular activity, not extracurricular, and sport should be a frontline ministry. It has never been. It has always been, and that's why our national sportsmen have been discarded, have been discredited. You put no support with them, but as soon as they win a gold medal, you rush to the airport, you put a name of plane after them and try to give them a house. That is not what they want. They want the support now. When I decided to turn that St. James Barracks and have an artificial field, that and then having the best football field in the North Ground, and then Dennis Wren decides to mislead the country to say, oh, $7 million. It was not. That hockey field was $1.3 million, which is almost 10 times less than the cost of the hockey field in Tacarigua that is unserviceable for the last 3 years. But now we can have young persons play in a secure environment. This is going to be a cash flow for the Police Service Sports Club that they will be getting millions because of renting of the facilities and advertisements. It'll get the community to train and to play in a secure environment. Sport builds so many things to help young men and women from a life of crime, development, punctuality, leadership, teamwork, discipline, tactics, strategy. That is how important sport is. So I could tell you, the next government, sport is going to be one of the main ministries in this country.
We have people like Shaka Hislop and Atto Bolan flying the Trinidad flag worldwide that could be used to help us raise the profile of our sports again, because sports in the doldrums. We have an aquatic center and a cycling center. What build them for? What are they used? We have so many stadiums, plural stadia, whichever word you want to use, both are actually functional. But we have so many of them. I tell people Inter Milan and AC Milan use the same stadium for years. two of the biggest clubs in the world. They share the same stadium for years. Why we don't have an actual football league where on a Sunday I could take my little daughter and go and sit down in the national stadium and watch two teams, Diego Martin play St. Anne's? Why we can't have that kind of use of the infrastructure? You understand what I'm trying to tell you? So when you're talking this, and I know you have your plans too, but culture and sport is a great unifier. It could bring people together. It could bring all the people in the Martin West together when our team wins. You understand what I'm trying to tell you? And that kind of thing. We could use sport and culture for that. We use sport and culture to sell phones, beer and rum.
Yeah, well, the best that we have seen this country united was in 2006 when we qualified um, for the World Cup, and that showed something. It said so much about this country and to show how important sport is. If you go to Dubai Airport, there's a photo. In the airport itself, one of the terminals. There's a photograph like about 20 feet long by 20 feet wide with Usain Bolt. Come to Jamaica. You can't get better marketing than that. But our country, our ministers, we do not appreciate it. We are the national hockey team. Our national hockey team flew out to an international tournament a few weeks ago. The coach of the St. Mary's Old Boy, Rafael Gouveia, was one of the coaches. The players, up until the day when they were supposed to fly out, did not get the funding from this government that hates sport. And so the players couldn't go. They needed to go a week before to prepare themselves, get acclimatized, have practice games. When the government finally decided to give them the funds, two players went on American Airlines. Two of them flew through Central America. Three went up to Washington, came back. So they went like a massive, not a team united. They all scattered. They turned up late in the evening to play against USA the following morning. This USA team was there 2 weeks before. They spent 6 months training all over the world, preparing themselves for this. Trinidad and Tobago leading USA 3-2 with 3 minutes to go, and that is where the crunch comes in. Because the players were now tired, they're frustrated, but guess what we'll do? We bad talk the national hockey team because of their performance and losing. But we failed our sportsmen. We did it with the national football team. 2006, I spoke about what happened in the World Cup. This last World Cup team, every single person criticized and attacked every single player, the coach, the management, Robert Haddad. That's what we do. We love to criticize, demonize persons. That is how we have evil in this country, and persons in the media, they live on that. And we allow that to happen.
Yeah, but that's the culture. That's what they've done. When David Rhoda said how we vote is not how we party, that's what he meant. They've created this divide in the nation where if we reach the stadium together, but your race playing my race, well, we can't be on the same side. That's the madness of Trinidad and Tobago. That is the insanity, and the people not getting yet that we keep voting ourselves holes in the hull of the ship. We are not voting ourselves things that are functional, that have plans and visions for the development of the country. Every night I talk about on the live videos that I do every night. The PNM medicine, now they're taking notes. I see they want to register people breadfruit trees now. They want to get into the breadfruit business. All of a sudden they realize that breadfruit is a good thing. But I want to tell Trinidadians, don't trust them. Don't register your breadfruit tree with them, because Call might come and say that your breadfruit tree have earning capacity and we're going to tax it. Be careful with the PNM. But they sit down and they listen. They don't have a single fresh idea in the bunch of them. But it's like, as you say, it is the best CPEP in the country. If you could link up and get yourself a post where you're drawing at $50,000-$60,000 a month as a minister and do nothing. When you talk about Simon de Nobrega, Simon de Nobrega was my neighbor. Simon and I used to talk about everything going on in the country when the UNC was in power, but I didn't know Simon was one of them hiding in plain sight fellas that will talk about what UNC doing, but PNM, he ain't gonna sit up at all. In fact, he was a chairman of the Diego Martin Regional Corporation, and the only time they ever got busy doing anything is when I go and highlight them on a video. So they're waiting there to see what I put on blast. People are marvel messaging me, thanking me for keep blasting Champs-Élysées. You see how Champs-Élysées road was. They just scrape it and pave it. There's nothing that is being done that is based on a plan or based on we are concerned about the citizens. We drive through this constituency every day. You're trying to tell me they're not hitting the same potholes? They're not swerving from the same potholes?
No, it's a fact that they don't care, because again, even going back, when the UNC were in government, my wife, she was involved in the communications strategic system, pumping information to the public, letting them know. We have a minister of communication that nobody in the country knows what he looks like. That is madness. We have a Minister of Communication that has never once made one press statement, one release, one comment to the media. The man is afraid to even introduce the Prime Minister at a Prime Minister's press conference. The Prime Minister does not have a Minister of Communication, so he has to introduce himself at media conferences. That is how
he's not trained for that. He's not trained for that. No,
but that
he used to work for his father-in-law selling paint. He not trained for that. This is not what he is.
Phillip,
a Minister of Communication is very important. People don't understand the value of communication until a time of crisis. And I keep telling people about that time that place blew up opposite West Mall, the transformer station. Remember that? When the transformer station blew up and we had to get everybody to keep updating the public and how he was dealing with the traffic and the crime and all of that. Nothing. And the media was constantly updated to the point where you had people like Samson Anton and them sharing tweets. And I'm saying that when you don't understand the job, you was talking about sport, and sport is important. You have to hire somebody who know more than run, hop, and skip. But a Minister of Communication in a time of crisis when people spreading rumors and you hear this going on in town and people start to panic and scatter, you need to be able to manage that too.
And that is why in 1990, after the attempted coup, the Commission of Inquiry stated that they needed a national operations center because that is what caused 1990 to take place, because different arms of the protective services, each one of them had a little bit of information, but had there been an operations center, the information would have been shared to prevent what took place. Likewise, many people did not know what was going on for several days, and that is where we have the National Operations Center to make. So when you had the nationwide blackout recently, not one person knew what was going on because you have a Minister of Energy who in a very foolish manner has the audacity to say that we allow TNTech to update the public. All TNTech did every 2 hours is to say that we're working on it. That is not what the public wants, because by you not giving proper information, it caused widespread panic throughout the country with people rushing out to fill up their gas tanks, park up there for hours. They didn't know what was going on, how long it would last, because you have no system. When there was the nationwide, when there was the major flood, 3 months after I got into office, I used the system through the text messaging, 20,000 messages every 1 minute to pass on to the public where to go, what to do. The same thing with the NOC. When we formed the NOC, letting the public be aware of what was happening in real time to take away the perception of fear, to update them. And again, as I said, even from a daily basis, we can be able to pick up traffic congestion, know where the police officers should be, where they should patrol, knowing how it is that how they should operate to minimize a situation, any concern, and going back to the prior situation. If it is that the National Operations Center worked in the right manner, there could have been a different result. But again, Keith Rowley is fully to blame because of his inability to understand how to lead a country, how to be a prime minister, and how to deal with national security.
Ignorance and arrogance, that's a terrible, terrible combination to have in a prime minister. Gary, you stayed an extra half hour. I want to thank you for that, and all of the people who got some of their questions answered. Some of them I can't give you, some of them I can't ask on the air. And the one question that they're asking over and over, because they're looking for hope, they're looking to see us batting on the same team. Trinidad, the race is what my father says, not for the swift, it's for those who stay the course. They have time again for us, all of that to happen. Give us some closing.
What I could say is that there's now the time for a third constituency, and it must not be seen as trying to get rid of the PNM and the UNC. Persons will be PNM or UNC till they die. That is your right. But leaving the PNM or the UNC doesn't mean that you're committing some type of heinous act. What we need is a third constituency of remember how good PNM was, how good the UNC was. Maybe it's a PNM and UNC reloaded that you need, but it's not going to happen with the present leadership of either side. And what we need now is a third constituency to ensure that this country could actually fulfill what is it we can do. This country is too good. We have too many dynamic persons that are just sitting down there, and they are not going to step out unless they know, listen, there's a proper team of people that will ensure that when we get there, our job is to make sure we serve citizens of this great country.
Thank you for that, my brother. Talk to you soon.
Take care.
And that, in a nutshell, I mean, we touched on a lot of important stuff tonight. We touched on the audacity of the Prime Minister to admit that he misbehaved in public office and he interfered with the process and the appointment of an independent commissioner of police in the process stage. And what Gary said was that Let the process go through, and you could have you could have rejected me in the parliament. But as he also rightly said, Keith Rowley couldn't afford the hit because the public, 89% of the public, wanted Gary as commissioner of police because they were feeling safe. And it comes down to that. You want a minister of works and transport who make you feel that you're driving on safe, smooth roads. You want a minister of health to make you feel that if you're in an emergency, you're going to be able to be treated. We have nothing, none of it. All of it is zero. When we got a commissioner, and I said that for the 3 years he was there, it was easy for everybody to be on the sideline and give opinions. Yeah, that's low-hanging fruit. Low-hanging fruit, well, you know what? For 50 years, nobody was picking those fruit. Gary was working, and people was expecting, and I have a couple people who hang around my page, and they expect that if you're delivering, you must be able to flick a switch, and overnight, the whole farm bearing fruit. There is something called the law of the farm. A lot of the things that we leave to idle and furrow, we have to follow. We have to come back and redo properly, and it'll take time. But what you could monitor is that we've cleared away all the weeds and removed all the junk, and we've plowed the fields, and we've removed the stones, and we've fertilized, and we've planted the seeds, and you could start to see the seedlings grow. That's your responsibility as citizens. 6 years into this PNM government, there is nothing of substance that is done. Following on 5 years of a government before, nothing of value. The reality of our situation as a country is that we are voting ourselves holes in the national hull. We are sinking our collective ship, thinking that half the ship could sink and the other half will go its merry way. There's no law of physics that allows for that. Trinidad and Tobago needs to come together as one people. You could be red, white, black, green, or any shade in between. It doesn't matter. If you are Trinbagonian, the function of the parliament and the cabinet and the government and the commissioner and the chief justice and the director of public prosecutions is to serve you to the highest level, to give you a quality of life better than the government before. And every other government, that's the claim that they should make. Instead of the nonsense and bacchanal and noise and roti politics, who spend more and who thief less. You're not fed up yet. 4 people die in a pipe because of complete incompetence. Stuart Young knew nothing about what he was doing. The entire band of political appointees in Paria are responsible for those 4 men dying. And I want Trinidad and Tobago to hear me. Because I spoke to Gary Griffith tonight and we dealt with issues because we could whistle and walk, and we need to be able to do 2 and 3 things at the same time. And Keith Rowley's audacious claim today needs to be addressed. And I'm happy David Naked dealt with that with the commissioner, with the director of public prosecutions. We're not going to let that go. But I want Keith Rowley to hear me clear and hear me well. We are not letting this issue with these divers go, and we are not settling for your commission of inquiry in your 6 months. We want the entire management of Paria fired. We want the board vacated, and we want criminal charges laid based on the evidence that you've been given by the survivor and the rescuers. And if you do not do that, then the people of Trinidad and Tobago are going to have to realize that the government has no interest in serving the people. Covering their ass and burying the truth is all they're interested in. And 1.4 million of us have to decide if that is acceptable. Thank you all for joining us tonight. Thank you all of you who messaged and asked and supported. Thank you for the numbers. We had some massive numbers tonight. I know there were political meetings outside there tonight as well. I want to go back and see what kind of numbers they got. Because the reality is we are growing in the center. Gary said there is room for a third constituency now. I believe the third constituency is going to become the first constituency. I think it's going to become the primary constituency as people refuse to be politically black or politically Indian. And when that happens, when that bondage is broken of racist voting, when all of us can come together and live the way we live normal. Because if how we vote is not how we party, then let's fix that. Let's get back to how we party, because if there's one thing this country have going for it, that is our saving grace, it is that. We have numbskulls for ministers. A minister of finance who's telling us that the IMF say our money is overvalued. Tell us what our money is valued on. How come we are a massive supplier of petroleum and gas for years? Not now. Now we're dead. Now we're in a hole. We broken, we owing everybody. But before, when we were going through the booms, how come the value of our money was 1/13 a US dollar when everything was exports? It doesn't make sense. None of it makes sense. We have the highest rate between buying and selling foreign currency in the world. Anybody else? They're feasting on Trinidadians. They are literally feasting on us. Every time they give you one of those statements, when Rowley tell you brace for the crunch, brace for the crash, they crash it. It is them that crash it. They can't be the one. The arsonist can't be fireman. The fellow who give you the sickness can't treat you. We need to be clear in our minds as a people, because all of us, your party card not coming out at the grocery register, your party card not saving you when you hit that hole, your party card not saving you from a gun in your face when they jump your wall. Let us stop the foolishness, start to work together, row together, so that we together, and he said it tonight, all of the people who want to be politically active, who still playing this game, well, I want to be in it, but I don't like he and I don't like she, wasting time. You're not in politics, you're in the ego game, and we don't have time for that. Our nation is on fire. This is Titanic after the iceberg hit. This is Rome after the fire, and Nero and a bunch of them fiddling in the parliament. Trinidad and Tobago is a victim of a political malaise that we have allowed to happen. And the only people to fix it is us. Until tomorrow, stay safe, Trinidad and Tobago.